The mining tunnels of Drakmor stretched deep into the planet's crystal heart like veins through stone. Do-hyun wiped sweat from his forehead as he checked the oxygen recyclers for the third time that day. The machines hummed quietly in the dim blue light that filtered down from the surface caves above. Working in the deepest parts of the mine was lonely work. Most humans stayed in the upper levels where the air was better, and the alien overseers could see them. But Do-hyun preferred the quiet depths. Here he could think without someone watching over his shoulder. The Drakari Empire owned this mining operation like they owned most things in this part of the galaxy. The dragon-like aliens stood twice as tall as humans, and their scales gleamed like metal armor. They ruled with strict laws and harsh punishments. Weakness was not allowed in their society. Failure meant exile or death. Do-hyun had worked on Drakmor for 5 years now. He knew to keep his head down and do his job. The pay was good enough to send money back to his family on Earth. That was all that mattered. As he moved deeper into Tunnel 7, his flashlight caught something strange near the old emergency shaft. At first he thought it was just another pile of broken mining equipment. But then he saw it move. Do-hyun stepped closer and his heart stopped. Curled up in the corner was a small dragon. But this was not like the massive Drakari he knew. This creature was tiny, maybe the size of a large dog. Its silver scales were dull and cracked. Dark blood stained the stone beneath it. The little dragon's breathing was shallow and quick. One of its wings hung at a strange angle. Deep cuts covered its body, and some of them looked infected. The smell of sickness filled the air around it. For a moment, Do-hyun just stared. He had never seen a young Drakari before. The adults kept their children hidden away in their great cities. What was one doing here in the deep mines all alone and injured? The creature's eyes opened slowly. They were a deep gold color like melted metal. Fear filled them when they saw Do-hyun. The little dragon tried to crawl away, but it was too weak. It made a small sound like a bird calling for help. Do-hyun knew he should walk away. Getting involved with Drakari business was dangerous for humans. The dragon people solved their own problems their own way. Outsiders who interfered usually disappeared. But as he looked at the suffering creature, something inside him would not let him leave. His mother had always taught him to help those who could not help themselves. It did not matter if they were human or not. Moving slowly so he would not frighten the little dragon more, Do-hyun knelt down beside it. The creature watched him with wide, scared eyes but did not try to move away again. "Hey there, little one," Do-hyun said softly. "I am not going to hurt you." The dragon's ears twitched at the sound of his voice. Do-hyun was not sure if it could understand human speech, but his tone seemed to calm it slightly. Looking closer at the wounds, Do-hyun could see they were serious. Without medical help soon, this little creature would die. The thought made his chest tight with sadness. He checked his watch. His shift would not end for another 4 hours. The upper levels would be busy with workers and overseers. But down here in the deep tunnels, no one else would come today. Do-hyun made his choice. Working carefully, he slipped his jacket off and wrapped it around the small dragon. The creature was surprisingly light. It made a weak sound of protest but did not fight as he lifted it. "I know this is scary," Do-hyun whispered, "but I want to help you." The walk back through the tunnels felt like it took forever. Do-hyun had to stop several times to rest. The little dragon stayed very still in his arms. Sometimes he felt it shivering. His living quarters were in the worker section of the mining complex. The hallways were empty since most people were still on duty. Do-hyun used his keycard to open his door and slipped inside quickly. The room was small but clean. A bed, a desk, and a tiny kitchen area. Not much space, but it would have to do. Do-hyun laid the dragon gently on his bed. In the better light, he could see how bad its condition really was. The scales that should have been bright silver were gray and lifeless. The cuts on its body were deep, and some were turning green with infection. He had some basic medical supplies in his bathroom, things the company gave all workers in case of accidents. Bandages, antiseptic, and pain medicine. Not much, but better than nothing. The little dragon watched as Do-hyun gathered the supplies. It seemed to understand he was trying to help. When he started cleaning the wounds, it held very still even though it must have hurt. "You are very brave," Do-hyun said as he worked. "Much braver than me." As he cleaned away the dried blood, Do-hyun noticed something strange about the wounds. They looked like they had been made by claws. Dragon claws. This little one had been attacked by its own kind. The thought made him angry. What kind of people would hurt their own child? It took an hour to clean and bandage all the wounds. The little dragon never tried to bite or scratch him. It just watched with those golden eyes and made soft sounds when the pain got bad. When Do-hyun was finished, he gave the creature some water from a small bowl. It drank eagerly. Then he tried offering some of his food. The dragon sniffed at the bread and meat but did not eat. "I guess you need different food than humans do," Do-hyun said. "I will figure something out." The little dragon curled up on the blanket Do-hyun had put down. For the first time since he found it, the creature looked peaceful. Do-hyun sat in his chair and watched the sleeping dragon. He had no idea what he was going to do next. Hiding an injured Drakari in his room was probably the most dangerous thing he had ever done. But as he looked at the small creature breathing quietly on his bed, he knew he could not regret his choice. Everyone deserved a chance to live. Everyone deserved someone who cared about them. Tomorrow he would worry about the problems this might cause. Tonight he would just be glad that one small life was safe. 3 days had passed since Do-hyun brought the little dragon to his room. The creature was getting stronger but also bigger. What had been the size of a large dog was now closer to a small horse. Its silver scales were beginning to shine again, and the wounds were healing faster than Do-hyun had expected. The dragon still would not eat human food. Do-hyun had tried everything he could think of. Bread, meat, fruits from the cafeteria. Nothing worked. The creature was getting thinner each day, and this worried him greatly. On the third morning, Do-hyun's door chimed. His heart jumped into his throat. The little dragon was sleeping on his bed, too big now to hide easily. "Just a minute," Do-hyun called out. He quickly threw a blanket over the dragon and opened the door just enough to see outside. His friend Baekhyun stood in the hallway with a concerned look on his face. They had worked together for 3 years, and Baekhyun knew Do-hyun better than anyone else on Drakmor. "You have been acting strange lately," Baekhyun said. "Missing meals, not showing up for our evening walks." "Are you sick?" Do-hyun tried to smile, but it felt fake. "I'm fine. Just tired from working the deep tunnels." Baekhyun studied his face. "You are lying to me. What is going on?" Before Do-hyun could answer, a soft sound came from inside his room. Like a cat purring, but deeper. Both men froze. "What was that?" Baekhyun whispered. Do-hyun closed his eyes. He had been found out. There was no point in lying anymore. "You need to promise me something," Do-hyun said quietly. "Promise you will not report what I am about to show you." Baekhyun looked confused but nodded. "I promise." Do-hyun opened the door wider and let his friend inside. Then he pulled back the blanket. Baekhyun's face went white as snow. He stumbled backward and nearly fell over the chair. "Are you insane?" he whispered. "That is a Drakari. You have a baby dragon in your room." The little dragon had woken up and was watching both men with curious eyes. It did not seem afraid of Baekhyun like it had been of Do-hyun at first. "I found him in the deep mines," Do-hyun explained quickly. "He was dying. I could not just leave him there." "Him? How do you know it is male?" "I do not know for sure. He just seems like a him to me." Baekhyun stared at the dragon. "Do you have any idea how much trouble you are in? If the Drakari find out you have one of their young, they will kill us both, maybe everyone in the worker section." "I know the risks," Do-hyun said. "But look at him. He was hurt badly. Someone attacked him with claws. His own people left him to die." The dragon made a soft chirping sound. Both men looked at him. He was looking directly at Do-hyun with something that looked like understanding in his golden eyes. "He likes you," Baekhyun said with surprise. "I have never seen a Drakari show emotion toward a human before." "He is different from the adults," Do-hyun said. "Gentler, more trusting." Baekhyun walked closer to get a better look. The dragon watched him but did not move away. "His scales are beautiful," Baekhyun admitted, "like liquid silver. But why is he so thin? Are you not feeding him?" "He will not eat human food. I have tried everything. I think he needs something different, but I do not know what." Baekhyun thought for a moment. "My shift today is in the biolabs. They study the local plants and animals there. Maybe I can find information about what young Drakari eat." "You will help me?" Do-hyun asked with hope. "I think you are crazy," Baekhyun said. "But I also think you are the kindest person I know. If you believe this little one deserves to live, then I will help you." The dragon made another soft sound, almost like he understood they were talking about him. Meanwhile, far above them in the great crystal palace that floated over Drakmor's surface, Empress Myung stared out at the stars. Her heart felt heavy as stone. 2 weeks had passed since her youngest son had been taken to the exile caves. The law was clear. Children born with the wasting sickness must be abandoned. They were too weak to survive in Drakari society. Keeping them would make the whole race weaker, but Taijin had been her baby. Her last child. She had held him when he was just hatched and felt his tiny heart beating against her chest. Now he was gone and she would never see him again. The boy is dead by now, her mate had told her. It is better this way. He would have suffered more if we had kept him. Myung knew he was right according to their laws, but her heart did not care about laws. It only cared about the child she had lost. A servant entered the room and bowed low. "Your Majesty, General Wu Jin wishes to speak with you," the Empress sighed. Wu Jin was her mate's most trusted general, a powerful warrior who believed completely in the old ways. He had been the one to insist that Taijin be exiled. "Send him in." General Wu Jin entered with heavy steps. His dark green scales were scarred from many battles. His eyes were cold as winter stars, "Your Majesty," he said with a bow. "I have disturbing news. The young prince has not been found in the exile caves." Myung felt her heart skip. "What do you mean?" "My soldiers have searched every tunnel and cavern. There is no sign of the boy. No body, no bones, nothing." "Perhaps wild animals took him," Myung suggested, though the thought made her sick. "Perhaps," Wu Jin agreed, "but there is another possibility. Someone may have taken him. Who would dare? The mining facility has many different species working there. Some might not understand our laws. They might see a sick child and try to help." The idea filled Myung with both hope and terror. Hope that her son might still be alive. Terror at what would happen if he was found. "What do you suggest?" she asked. "I request permission to search the mining complex thoroughly. Question all the workers. Find out if anyone has seen the prince." Myung thought about this. If Taijin was really alive somewhere, she wanted to know. But she also knew what Wu Jin would do if he found anyone helping her son. "Very well," she said finally, "but I want no unnecessary violence. These workers are valuable to the Empire." Wu Jin bowed again. "Of course, Your Majesty. I will be very careful." But as he left the room, Myung saw the look in his eyes. Wu Jin cared nothing for the lives of lesser beings. If he found her son, he would make sure no one ever interfered with Drakari law again. Back in the mining complex, Do-hyun sneezed suddenly. He had no way of knowing that danger was coming for him and his small friend. The little dragon looked up at him with concern and made a questioning sound. "I am fine," Do-hyun said, reaching out to gently touch the dragon's head. Just dust from the mines, but deep inside he felt like something was wrong, like a storm was coming and he needed to be ready for it. Baekhyun returned from the biolabs with good news and bad news. The good news was that he had found information about what young Drakari ate. The bad news was much more serious. "General Wu Jin arrived this morning," Baekhyun whispered as he slipped into Do-hyun's room. "He brought 50 soldiers with him. They are searching the entire mining complex." Do-hyun felt his blood turn cold. The little dragon, who Do-hyun had started calling Taijin in his mind, looked up from where he was resting. The creature seemed to sense the fear in the room. "What are they looking for?" Do-hyun asked, though he already knew the answer. "A missing prince," Baekhyun said quietly. "They think someone here might be hiding him." Do-hyun looked at Taijin. The dragon was now the size of a large pony, and his scales shimmered like liquid silver. His wounds had almost completely healed. There was intelligence in his golden eyes that grew stronger each day. "How long before they search this room?" Do-hyun asked. "Maybe 2 days. They started with the common areas and the upper levels, but they will check every room eventually." Taijin made a soft sound and crawled closer to Do-hyun. The dragon had learned to understand human emotions. He knew something was wrong. "I found out what he needs to eat," Baekhyun said, pulling out a small container. "Young Drakari need a special mineral that only grows in the deep caves. These blue crystals." The crystals looked like sapphire gems, but they felt warm to the touch. Baekhyun offered one to Taijin. The dragon sniffed it carefully, then bit into it. The crystal crunched like ice between his teeth. Taijin's eyes lit up with joy. He ate the crystal quickly, then looked around for more. It was the first time he had shown real hunger since Do-hyun found him. "Where can we get more of these?" Do-hyun asked. "That is the problem. They only grow in the deepest parts of the mining tunnels, the same area where you found him. But now those tunnels are full of soldiers." Do-hyun watched Taijin eat another crystal. The dragon was already looking healthier. His scales were brighter and he held his head higher. We have to get him out of here, Do-hyun said. If they find him, they will kill him. And us too. Where can we go? This is a mining planet. There are no places to hide, Do-hyun thought hard. There had to be somewhere they could take Tae-jin. Somewhere safe. The old emergency bunkers, he said suddenly, from when this place was first built. They are outside the main complex in the crystal forests. Those bunkers have been abandoned for years. No power, no heat, no communication. But they are hidden, and far enough away that the soldiers might not search there. Baekhyun looked worried. How would we get there without being seen? The dragon is too big to hide now. They both looked at Tae-jin. The dragon was listening to their conversation. Sometimes Do-hyun thought the creature understood more human speech than he let on. The maintenance tunnels, Do-hyun said. They connect to the old mining shafts that lead outside. If we go at night during shift change, we might not be seen. This is getting more dangerous every hour, Baekhyun said. Maybe we should just turn him over to the soldiers. Tell them we found him and we're trying to help. No. The voice was not human. Both men stared at Tae-jin in shock. The dragon was looking directly at them with his golden eyes. No, Tae-jin said again in a voice like wind through crystal caves. They will kill me. I know this, Do-hyun felt his heart racing. You can speak? I learn from listening to you. I understand many words now. You are kind to me. You save my life. I do not want soldiers to find me. Baekhyun sat down hard in the chair. A talking dragon. We are hiding a talking dragon, Prince. My name is Tae-jin, the dragon said carefully. My mother gave me this name before they took me away. Why did they take you away? Do-hyun asked gently. Tae-jin's eyes became sad. I was born wrong, sick, weak. My people do not want weak children. They left me in the caves to die. That is terrible, Do-hyun said. No child should be treated that way. But you found me. You made me strong again. You are more family to me than my real family. The words made Do-hyun feel warm and sad at the same time. This young creature had been thrown away by his own people, but he had found love and care with humans instead. We will protect you, Do-hyun promised, no matter what it takes. That afternoon, General Woo Jin began his interrogations. He set up in the main cafeteria where everyone could see. One by one, he called workers forward to question them. Do-hyun and Baekhyun sat together and watched. The general was huge, even for a Drakari. His scales were dark green like deep forest shadows. His claws could cut through steel. When he looked at someone, they felt like prey being studied by a predator. You work in Sector 7, Woo Jin said to a human woman. Have you seen anything unusual in the deep tunnels? No, sir, the woman replied. Her voice shook with fear. Any strange sounds? Missing equipment? Areas that have been disturbed? Nothing, sir. Woo Jin stared at her for a long moment. Then he waved her away and called the next worker. The interrogations went on for hours. Most people knew nothing and were released quickly, but some workers were taken away for more private questioning. Do-hyun heard later that these sessions were not pleasant. He is getting closer to our section, Baekhyun whispered. Tomorrow he will start questioning maintenance workers. That night, Do-hyun made his decision. They could not wait any longer. We leave tonight, he told Tae-jin and Baekhyun. It is too dangerous to stay here. Tae-jin nodded. The dragon had been practicing moving quietly around the room. For such a large creature, he could be surprisingly silent when he wanted to be. I have been thinking about the route, Baekhyun said. If we go through Maintenance Tunnel C, we can reach the old mining shaft without crossing any main corridors. How long will it take? Do-hyun asked. 2 hours to reach the forest. Maybe another hour to find a good bunker. Do-hyun packed his few belongings into a small bag. Food, water, medical supplies, and the remaining blue crystals for Tae-jin. Everything he owned in the world, are you sure about this? Baekhyun asked. Once we leave, we can never come back. Do-hyun looked at Tae-jin. The dragon was watching him with trust and hope in his golden eyes. Some things are more important than a job, Do-hyun said. Some things are worth any risk. As midnight approached, they prepared to leave. None of them knew that General Woo Jin had already begun to suspect that humans were involved in the prince's disappearance. The hunt was about to become much more dangerous. The old bunker was cold and dark, but it was safe. Do-hyun, Baekhyun, and Tae-jin had made the dangerous journey through the maintenance tunnels without being seen. Now they sat in the abandoned shelter deep in the crystal forest, far from the mining complex. Tae-jin curled up near the emergency power cell that Baekhyun had managed to activate. The weak light cast strange shadows on the bunker walls. The dragon looked tired but happy to be away from danger. We cannot stay here forever, Baekhyun said quietly. This place has food and water for maybe 1 week. After that, we will need to find something else. Do-hyun nodded. He had been thinking the same thing. But for now, they were safe, and that was what mattered most. Tell us about your sickness, Do-hyun said to Taejin. Maybe we can understand it better. The dragon lifted his great head. His golden eyes reflected the dim light like mirrors. I was born different from other dragons, Taejin said slowly. My body was weak. My mind worked differently. The healers said I would never be strong enough to rule or fight. But you seem strong now, Baekhyun observed. Because of him, Taejin looked at Do-hyun. When you cared for me, something changed inside me. The sickness began to go away. That does not make sense, Baekhyun said. How can kindness cure a genetic disease? Do-hyun remembered something from his training as a maintenance worker. All humans had to learn basic medical skills in case of emergencies. What if it was not just genetic, he said. What if the sickness needed something else to trigger it? Like what? Stress, fear, loneliness. Maybe young dragons need emotional support to develop properly. Maybe that is what was missing. Taejin made a sound like agreement. My people do not show feelings like humans do. Dragon children are taught to be strong and independent from the moment they hatch. We do not get comfort when we are afraid or sad. But you needed that comfort to grow healthy, Do-hyun said with understanding. Yes. When you held me and spoke gently to me, I felt something I had never felt before. Safety, love, and my body began to heal. Baekhyun stared at both of them. You are saying that human emotions can cure dragon diseases? Not cure, Taejin corrected. Help, guide. My body always had the power to be strong, but it needed the right conditions to grow. Meanwhile, back at the mining complex, General Woo Jin was becoming more suspicious by the hour. His soldiers had searched most of the facility and found nothing, but his instincts told him the missing prince was still nearby. He stood in the security office studying video feeds from the past week. The screens showed corridors, work areas, and living quarters. Most of it was routine, workers going about their daily tasks, but one thing caught his attention, a human maintenance worker who had been acting strangely. The man appeared on camera several times carrying extra food from the cafeteria. He took medical supplies from the emergency stations. He avoided the common areas where other workers gathered. What is this human's name? Woo Jin asked the security officer. Do-hyun Kim. He has worked here for 5 years. Good record. No problems. Where is he now? The security officer checked his computer. He did not report for his shift today. His friend Baekhyun Park is also missing. Woo Jin's eyes narrowed. 2 humans disappearing at the same time was not a coincidence. Search their rooms immediately, he ordered. 20 minutes later, soldiers reported back. Both rooms were empty, but they had found something interesting in Do-hyun's quarters. Dragon scales on the bed, blue crystal crumbs on the floor, and the faint smell of dragon scent in the air. The human was hiding the prince, Woo Jin said with satisfaction. Find out everything about these 2 workers, where they might go, who their friends are. Check all the security recordings again. While the soldiers searched, Woo Jin made a discovery of his own. In the medical files, he found information about dragon child development that most of his people had forgotten. Ancient texts spoke of something called emotional bonding, that young dragons needed to grow strong. But this practice had been abandoned centuries ago when the Drakari decided that showing emotion made them weak. The text described symptoms that matched exactly what Prince Taejin had suffered. Weakness, illness, failure to develop properly. And they described a cure that involved constant care and emotional support. Impossible, Woo Jin muttered. But the evidence was right there in the old records. He thought about the Empress and how she had grieved for her lost son, how she had wanted to keep the sick child despite the law. Maybe her maternal instincts had been right all along. But Woo Jin pushed these thoughts away. The old ways were the strong ways. Emotions made dragons weak and vulnerable. The law was clear and he would enforce it. Back in the bunker, Do-hyun was making a difficult decision. I need to contact someone, he told the others. Someone who might be able to help us. Who? Baekhyun asked. The Empress, Taejin's mother. Both Baekhyun and Taejin stared at him in shock. That is suicide, Baekhyun said. She will turn us over to the soldiers immediately. No, Taejin said quietly. She will not. How can you be sure? Do-hyun asked. Because she cried when they took me away. I saw her through the window of the transport ship. Dragons do not cry unless they feel real pain. She loves you, Do-hyun realized. Yes, but she followed the law anyway because she thought it was right. Maybe if she sees that I am strong now, she will understand that the law is wrong. It was a huge risk. If the Empress decided to follow tradition, they would all be executed. But if she chose love over law, they might have a chance. How would we even contact her? Baekhyun asked. Do-hyun pulled out his emergency communicator. All mine workers carried them in case of cave-ins or accidents. I can send a coded message to the palace communication system. If she wants to respond, she will find a way. What will you tell her? Do-hyun looked at Taejin. The dragon nodded encouragingly. I will tell her that her son is alive and safe, and that he has something important to show her. That night, a strange message appeared on Empress Myung's private communication terminal. It was coded in the basic mining emergency signals that all Drakari learned in case of industrial accidents. The message was simple. Your lost child lives and grows strong. If you wish to see proof, come alone to Crystal Forest coordinates attached. A friend watches over him. Myung stared at the message for a long time. It could be a trap. It could be someone trying to trick her. But something deep in her heart told her it was real. Her son was alive, and someone had been caring for him all this time. She made her decision. Tomorrow she would go to the Crystal Forest and learn the truth. Empress Myung arrived at the Crystal Forest just as the twin suns were setting. She had come alone as requested, leaving her guards at the edge of the mining complex. Her heart pounded as she walked through the glowing crystal trees toward the coordinates in the message. She was afraid of what she might find, afraid that this was all a cruel trick, but also afraid that it might be real, and she would see her son again. The abandoned bunker was hidden behind a wall of tall blue crystals. Myung almost missed it in the fading light. But then she saw the faint glow coming from inside and heard voices speaking quietly. She is here, Do-hyun whispered to the others. I can see her approaching. Taejin lifted his great head. He was nervous and excited at the same time. It had been weeks since he had seen his mother. He wondered if she would recognize him now that he was so much bigger and stronger. What if she does not believe we are trying to help? Baekhyun asked. Then we will have to run very fast, Do-hyun said with a weak smile. The bunker door opened slowly. Empress Myung stepped inside and froze. There in the dim light was her son. But he was not the weak, sickly child she remembered. This was a magnificent young dragon with shining silver scales and bright golden eyes full of intelligence and life. Taejin? She whispered. Hello, mother, the dragon replied in perfect Drakari language. Myung's legs almost gave out. She had not expected him to be able to speak so clearly. When she had last seen him, he could barely lift his head. How is this possible? She asked. You were dying. These humans saved me, Taejin said, looking at Do-hyun with affection. They cared for me when my own people left me to die. Myung turned to study the two men who stood nervously near the back of the bunker. They were small and fragile-looking compared to dragons. But there was something in their eyes that reminded her of her own feelings when she looked at her children. You are the ones who sent the message, she said. Yes, Your Majesty, Do-hyun said with a bow. My name is Do-hyun. This is my friend Baekhyun. We found your son injured in the mining tunnels. Why did you help him? You must have known how dangerous it would be. Do-hyun looked at Taejin. Because he needed help, and because every child deserves someone who cares about them. The simple honesty in his voice touched something deep in Myung's heart. This human had risked everything for her son, not for money or power or position, just because it was the right thing to do. Show me his wounds, she said. Dohyun carefully pointed out where Taejin's injuries had been. The dragon turned to display the places where his scales had grown back stronger and brighter than before. He was attacked with claws, Dohyun explained. Dragon claws. Someone of your people hurt him badly before leaving him to die. Mi-young felt shame burn in her chest. She knew who had done this. General Wu Jin had insisted that the exile be carried out properly. He had probably made sure that Taejin could not crawl back to the palace for help. I am sorry, she said to her son. I should have protected you. You followed the law, Taejin said gently. But these humans followed something more important. They followed their hearts. How did you heal him? Mi-young asked Dohyun. Our best doctors said there was no cure for his condition. Dohyun looked uncomfortable. We did not cure him, Your Majesty. We just took care of him. Fed him, kept him warm, talked to him, made sure he knew he was not alone. That is all? Sometimes that is everything, Baekhyun said quietly. Mi-young stared at her son. She could see the truth now. Taejin had not been sick with something that could be cured with medicine. He had been starving for something that only love could provide. Our ancestors wrote about this, she said slowly. About emotional bonding for dragon young. But we abandoned those practices long ago. Why? Dohyun asked. Because we thought they made us weak. We believed that dragons should be strong and independent from birth. That needing others was a failure. But look at him now, Dohyun said, gesturing toward Taejin. Does he look weak to you? Mi-young studied her son carefully. Taejin was indeed magnificent. His scales gleamed with health. His eyes were bright and alert. His body was strong and well-formed. But more than that, there was something else. A confidence and warmth that she had never seen in young dragons before. He looks powerful, she admitted. More powerful than dragons raised the traditional way. Because I was loved, Taejin said simply. Love does not make you weak. It makes you strong enough to care about others. Strong enough to protect what matters. Before Mi-young could respond, they heard sounds outside the bunker. Heavy footsteps. The clank of armor. Voices giving orders. Soldiers, Baekhyun whispered in terror. Through the bunker's small window, they could see lights moving through the crystal forest. General Wu Jin had found them. How? Dohyun asked desperately. Mi-young closed her eyes with understanding. They followed me. I thought I came alone, but Wu Jin must have had someone watching me. The footsteps were getting closer. Soon the bunker would be surrounded. Your Majesty, came Wu Jin's voice from outside. I know you are in there. Come out now and bring the humans with you. Mi-young looked at her son and the two men who had saved him. She had a choice to make. Follow the law and tradition as she always had, or stand up for what she now knew was right. Mother, Taejin said quietly, whatever you decide, I am grateful that I got to see you again. The love in his voice broke her heart. This was her child, her baby, and these humans had given him back to her when she thought he was lost forever. Stay behind me, she told Dohyun and Baekhyun. All of you. Mi-young stood and walked to the bunker door. When she opened it, General Wu Jin was standing there with 20 armed soldiers. Their weapons were pointed at the bunker. Your Majesty, Wu Jin said with a bow. Step aside so we can arrest these criminals. No, Mi-young said firmly. Wu Jin looked surprised. Your Majesty? I said no. These humans are under my protection. They have violated our laws by interfering with the exile of a defective child. My son is not defective, Mi-young said with steel in her voice. He is magnificent. And these humans saved his life when our own people left him to die. The law is clear. The law is wrong, Mi-young interrupted, and I am changing it. The confrontation had begun, and for the first time in her life, the Empress was choosing love over law. General Wu Jin stared at Empress Mi-young in shock. In all his years of service, he had never heard her directly challenge Drakari law. Your Majesty, he said carefully, perhaps you are not thinking clearly. The stress of losing your son has affected your judgment. My judgment is perfectly clear, Mi-young replied. clearer than it has ever been. Behind her, Taijin stepped out of the bunker. The soldiers gasped when they saw him. This was not the weak, dying creature they had been told about. This was a powerful young dragon who moved with grace and confidence. "Prince Taijin," Wujin said with surprise. "You are alive." "Yes," Taijin said in a voice that carried across the crystal forest. "I am alive because these humans chose compassion over law. They saved me when my own people abandoned me." Several of the younger soldiers shifted uncomfortably. They had been taught that abandoning weak children was necessary for the strength of their race. But looking at the magnificent dragon before them, they began to wonder if they had been wrong. "The law exists for good reason," Wujin said firmly. "Weak children become weak adults. They make the whole empire weaker." "Look at me," Taijin challenged. "Do I look weak to you?" Wujin studied the prince carefully. He had to admit that Taijin appeared stronger and healthier than most dragons his age. His scales gleamed like polished metal. His eyes were bright with intelligence. His bearing was proud and confident. "How is this possible?" Wujin asked. "Because the humans gave me something our people had forgotten," Taijin explained. "They gave me love without conditions. They cared for me not because I was strong or useful, but simply because I needed help." "Love is weakness," Wujin declared. "It makes dragons soft and vulnerable." "Does it?" Taijin asked. He stepped forward until he was face to face with the general. "Then explain why I would gladly fight your entire army to protect these humans who showed me kindness." The power in Taijin's voice made several soldiers step back. Even Wujin looked uncertain for a moment. "Love does not make you weak," Taijin continued. "It gives you something worth being strong for, something worth protecting, something worth dying for if necessary." Dohyun and Baekhyun watched in amazement as the young dragon they had rescued stood up to one of the most feared generals in the empire. The shy, frightened creature they had found was gone. In his place stood a confident prince who was not afraid to speak truth to power. "Enough talk," Wujin said, raising his weapon. "The law is the law. These humans will be executed for their interference, and you will return to the palace to face judgment for your defiance." "I will not allow it," Myung said, moving to stand beside her son. "You cannot stop me, your majesty. I serve the dragon monarch himself. His word is law." "Then perhaps it is time my mate heard what his son has to say." A new voice echoed through the forest, deep and powerful like rolling thunder. The dragon monarch himself emerged from behind the crystal trees, his massive form casting long shadows in the dim light. Everyone, including Wujin, immediately bowed low. The dragon monarch was the most powerful being in the empire. His word was indeed law. "Rise," the monarch commanded. His golden eyes studied the scene before him. "I received word that my son had been found. I came to see for myself." He looked at Taijin with surprise. "You have grown strong, my son." "Yes, father. Thanks to the kindness of humans who refused to let me die alone." The monarch's gaze shifted to Dohyun and Baekhyun. The two men tried not to shake under his intense stare. "These small creatures saved your life?" "They did more than that," Taijin said. "They taught me what it means to truly care for another being. They showed me that real strength comes not from being feared, but from being loved. General Wujin tells me they violated our laws." "They violated bad laws, father. Laws that would have let your son die for no good reason." The monarch was quiet for a long moment. Around them, the crystal forest glowed with soft blue light. Everyone waited to see what he would decide. "Tell me exactly what these humans did," the monarch said to Taijin. Taijin described everything: how Dohyun had found him dying in the tunnels, how the human had risked his own safety to care for a creature he barely knew, how Dohyun had fed him, healed his wounds, and spoken to him with gentleness and respect. "And what did you learn from this experience?" the monarch asked. "I learned that strength without compassion is meaningless," Taijin said. "I learned that protecting others is more important than protecting yourself. And I learned that our people have forgotten something vital about what it means to be truly powerful." The monarch looked at his wife. "What do you think of our son's words, Myung?" "I think he speaks the truth," she replied. "I think these humans have given us back something we lost long ago. They have shown us that love and strength are not enemies. They are partners." General Wujin stepped forward desperately. "Your Majesty, surely you cannot be considering changing laws that have served our people for centuries." "I am considering many things," the monarch replied. "But first I want to hear from the humans themselves." He turned to Dohyun. "You, step forward." Do-hyun's legs felt like water, but he managed to walk over to the massive dragon. Up close, the monarch was even more intimidating than he had seemed from a distance. "Why did you help my son?" the monarch asked. "What did you hope to gain?" "Nothing, your majesty," Do-hyun said honestly. "I just could not leave a child to suffer alone. It would not have been right. Even knowing the danger to yourself?" "Yes, your majesty. Some things are more important than personal safety." The monarch studied Do-hyun for a long time. Then he turned to his son. "You believe this human's way of thinking made you stronger?" "I know it did, father. When someone loves you without conditions, it gives you the courage to become the best version of yourself. Not because you have to, but because you want to." The dragon monarch looked around at all the faces watching him. His soldiers, his wife, his son, and the two humans who had changed everything. Finally, he made his decision. The dragon monarch's voice rang out across the crystal forest like a bell. "General Wu Jin, lower your weapons." "Your Majesty?" Wu Jin looked confused. "I said lower them, now." The general reluctantly signaled his soldiers to put down their weapons. None of them dared disobey a direct order from their ruler. The monarch walked over to Do-hyun and Baekhyun. The two humans stood as straight as they could, even though they were terrified. "You have done something remarkable," the monarch said. "You have shown me that my people have been wrong about many things. For that I am in your debt." Do-hyun could hardly believe what he was hearing. "Your Majesty, we only did what felt right." "Exactly," the monarch replied. "You followed your hearts instead of harsh laws. And because of that, my son lives. Not just lives, but thrives." He turned to address everyone present. "For too long, we Drakari have believed that strength comes from being hard and cold. We have taught our children that emotions are weakness, that needing others makes you vulnerable." The monarch looked at Taejin with pride. "But look at my son. He is stronger now than any dragon raised the traditional way. His strength comes not from isolation, but from connection. Not from fear, but from love." "Your Majesty," Wu Jin protested, "if we abandon our traditions, we will become soft. Our enemies will defeat us, will they?" the monarch asked. "Tell me, General, what makes a warrior fight harder? Fear of punishment or love for what he protects?" Wu Jin considered this. He thought about his own experiences in battle. His fiercest fighting had always been when he was protecting something precious to him. "Love," he admitted quietly. "Then, perhaps warriors who fight for love are stronger than those who fight from duty alone." The monarch placed a gentle claw on Taejin's head. "My son, you have learned something that I and my ancestors forgot. You have learned that true power comes from caring about others, not just yourself. I learned it from humans, father. They have something we lost." "Then perhaps it is time we learned from them," the monarch said. He turned to Do-hyun. "I have a proposal for you, human." "Yes, your Majesty?" "I want you to come to the palace. You and your friend. Help us establish new ways of raising our young. Teach us how to combine strength with compassion." Do-hyun looked at Baekhyun in amazement. "You want us to teach dragons?" "You have already taught us the most important lesson of all," the monarch replied. "That love is not weakness. It is the greatest strength there is." "What about the old laws?" Empress Myung asked. "The old laws served their purpose in their time," the monarch said. "But times change. We must change with them or become extinct like the ancient beasts we study in museums." He looked around at his soldiers. Many of them were young dragons who had never questioned the traditional ways, but he could see doubt in their eyes now. Doubt about whether their harsh training had really made them stronger. "From this day forward," the monarch announced, "no dragon child will be abandoned for being different or weak. Instead, they will be given the care and support they need to grow strong in their own way." General Wu Jin looked troubled. "Your Majesty, this goes against everything we have believed for generations." "Sometimes beliefs must be challenged," the monarch replied. "Sometimes we must have the courage to admit we were wrong and choose a better path." He gestured toward Taejin. "The proof stands before us. My son was dying under our old ways. Under the human way of caring, he has become magnificent. Can you argue with such results?" Wu Jin looked at Taejin. The young prince stood tall and proud, his scales gleaming with health and his eyes bright with intelligence and confidence. It was impossible to deny that whatever the humans had done, it had worked better than anything the dragons had tried. "No, your Majesty," Wu Jin said finally. "I cannot argue with the results." "Then you will support these changes?" The general was quiet for a long moment. Then he knelt before the monarch. I will serve as you command, Your Majesty. If this is the path you choose for our people, then I will walk it with you. The other soldiers followed their general's example, kneeling in acceptance of their ruler's decision. The monarch turned back to Do-hyun. So human, will you accept my offer? Will you help us build a better future for both our peoples? Do-hyun looked at Taejin. The dragon, who had once been a frightened, dying creature, was now a symbol of hope for an entire civilization. It seemed impossible that such a small act of kindness could lead to such enormous changes. I will do whatever I can to help, Do-hyun said. And I will help too, Baekhyun added, if you will have me. We will have you both, the monarch said with something that might have been a smile. You will be honored as the first non-dragons ever granted noble status in our empire. 6 months later, the changes were already visible throughout the Drakari Empire. The harsh academies where young dragons had been trained in isolation were replaced with family learning, centers where parents and children grew strong. Together, human teachers worked alongside dragon instructors, sharing knowledge about emotional development and psychological health. The concept of unconditional love, once foreign to dragon culture, became a cornerstone of their new educational system. Taejin had grown into a powerful adult dragon, but he remained close to Do-hyun and Baekhyun. The three of them often traveled together to establish new healing centers on distant worlds. Do you ever regret leaving your quiet life in the mines? Taejin asked Do-hyun one evening as they watched the sunset from the palace balcony. Do-hyun smiled. Never. Sometimes the best thing you can do is follow your heart, even when it leads you somewhere unexpected. Even when it means giving up everything you knew. Especially then, Do-hyun replied, because that is when you discover what you are truly capable of. The dragon and the human sat together in comfortable silence, watching the stars appear in the darkening sky. Around them, the great empire was changing, one heart at a time. It had all started with one simple choice in a dark mining tunnel. The choice to show compassion to a creature in need. That choice had saved more than just one life. It had saved an entire civilization from the coldness of its own traditions. And in the end, it proved something that humans had always known but dragons had forgotten. That love is not weakness but the greatest strength of all.